What's up, y'all? So it's Lone Wolf. Tonight I'm out working, bro, but I had to throw this episode, okay? This is a extension of Footprints Volume 2, which Volume 3 has a chapter to it, okay? But I decided to look into it and go, when did the devil, Satan, get thrown from heaven and land on earth, okay? Here's the deal. Was the devil in the Garden of Eden? That was a question that I had. Was the devil the snake? Yes and no, okay? There was a spiritual war that broke out in heaven where Satan and his angels were thrown to the earth, okay? And it was because of his pride, okay? And he wanted to try and overcome the Most High, that was why pretty much he was thrown out, okay? So I saw that there was no pride about the snake. There was manipulation about the snake. So either God worked through the snake to facilitate the disobedience and set the stage for humanity's awakening, or it was orchestrated and manipulation from the devil through the snake, which triggered the spiritual war. Okay? The pride aspect was first seen in Cain and Abel. Okay? I had a feeling that Satan was thrown from heaven to earth after Adam and Eve. Satan's first victim was Cain, and then Abel through the situation, okay? And you see the pride aspect through Cain's actions and the way he interacted with God, okay? And it was almost like the spilling of Abel's blood on the ground was equal to Satan being thrown out of heaven. That's kind of how I saw it. I think that Satan was thrown from heaven to earth when Cain struck Abel and when Cain was cursed. I think that the snake was a stage that was set for humanity's awakening, okay? And it could be that Satan worked through the snake, okay? Because the snake could talk. So it was like, well, it's something up there, okay? I also saw the town of Nod that Cain built was destroyed by the flood, okay? Lamech, which was in his bloodline, committed murder as well, okay? So there was a generational thing that happened there. Enoch was favored, but I believe that maybe he was chained by that generational curse in order to understand it and deal with it. He was favored by God and he was lifted up into the heavens, that he did not die a physical death, okay? So this is how I saw it, okay? Well, and if you look at the book of Enoch, which I have, and some people will go, well, it's not in the biblical canon, this and that. Okay. He talks about certain things in there. Like the fallen angels, this and that. That there were certain things that happened, okay? So, it doesn't start when Satan... Here's the deal. Jesus claims that he saw Satan fall from heaven like a flash of lightning to earth, okay? And was that flash of lightning, was the flash of lightning when Cain struck Abel or when Cain was cursed by God? That there was a lightning strike on him. That God struck lightning on this man. And that was when, here's the deal. Was Satan thrown to earth? This is how I kind of see it, is that Satan was thrown to earth right when Abel was struck. When the righteous blood was spilled, Satan was thrown out of heaven, okay? He fell from heaven like a flash of lightning. So Jesus saw all this happen before he was even born, okay? The devil appears to Jesus in Matthew 4, I believe it is. Maybe 5, but I believe it's 4. And my question was, could the devil have been thrown to earth when he was born and worked through Herod as his first victim in the darkness? No. I came to that conclusion, but that was a question that I wrote down. So I thought about that. The story of Job was when the devil was really first mentioned from what I could see. And I may have skipped around a little bit and missed something, but I think people say that Job's story is like the oldest story in the Old Testament, which isn't, I don't know, it's really confusing, okay? Here's the thing. So Jesus saw all this happen before he was born. So did Satan fall from heaven after the Garden of Eden? So Satan's fall from heaven to earth, okay, happened at one of two instances. When the snake manipulated Eve into disobedience, or when Cain struck Abel and his blood hit the earth and the ground was cursed below Cain, that he could not till the earth anymore, okay? That was when the devil was thrown from heaven, when Satan went from being an angel to basically being, you know, the Antichrist, bro. Like, he is like the devil, okay? It could be that he was the snake because he facilitated the consuming of the fruit. Maybe that was a spiritual thing where the fruit of disobedience was consumed and he was thrown from heaven. That's the other thing I thought about, okay? And I'm trying to figure this out and piece it together because I was looking at Footprints 2 and I was like, well, there's a gap in there that I didn't cover. That I didn't ask this important question. So it's in Footprints 3, which is about to come out. And I haven't even done any videos on Footprints 2. I plan on doing... I'm going to try and do some classes on it, bro, where maybe I can talk to people online and do videos through podcasts for it. So I may do them on my channel, but I want to do them with other people where I can bounce questions and go over the book. Maybe Jordan Peterson will do it with me because I done sent him the book and was like, yo, where you at, bro? I want to talk to you about this, okay? Here we are. What I do know is that the tree and the fruit in which they consumed was dark, and that was when Satan may have fell from heaven because he physically entered the human vessel, okay? The darkness, through disobedience, entered the vessel, okay? And once that happened, they were awake to their nakedness. Before all of this, the snake was in the garden, and they had no predatory alarm of the snake until the disobedience. So the disobedience of the snake, the manipulation to the disobedience, was what created the predatory alarm. Okay? Within us. Snake. Predatory alarm, bro. So we're like, well, hold on a second. Okay? Does manipulation of the snake, or through the snake, indicate the spiritual war of his pride that had him thrown out? There's a question. I couldn't find out which event caused it. But does it mean that the snake was the devil, or the devil worked through the snake? Quite possibly. So I might be wrong in my Footprints book about that. I might be. It could be that... Here's the deal. If we look at the 10 Commandments, okay, thou shalt not murder seemed to be something that resonated with me, where that it might have been that Satan was thrown from heaven when Abel was struck, because it reached a certain point where righteous blood was spilled and the ground was cursed, okay? Could it be that the pride from Satan was him working through the snake to try and rule over the Most High? Maybe. But that could have triggered a conflict. So it could be that it's way too complex that I can't answer it. Okay? That I can't answer this. But it could be that the devil was in the Garden of Eden, but it seemed as though the Garden of Eden was pure except for that tree which they were not supposed to eat from. Okay? Was the snake a spiritual attack from Satan through pride? There's another good question. Pride and the snake only make sense if the devil was the puppeteer. So only God knows the answer to that. But it's an interesting thing to think about, okay? When did this... What's the linear fashion of events here? It may be that Satan betrayed God and not humanity yet. Well, and that's kind of a shaky statement because, well, if he was the snake, like some people say, then he kind of betrayed humanity and God. But I have a feeling that God worked through the snake in order to facilitate disobedience, to create awareness. Okay? So God created the awareness part, but I think the devil and pride happened through Cain. So Cain was his first victim, but Abel was his second victim by proxy. Okay? Something else happened that we don't know about before humans stepped into disobedience. Okay? So the way things played out, only God knows. Okay? And maybe we find that all out after we pass away from this physical incarnation, where God kind of show us this is the story of humanity, like it's a videotape. Like he gonna put you through this videotape real quick and show you something. And it's like, maybe. It might be that he's like, well, it's the word of God, and this is how it's going to be. So if you got questions, well, I guess we could talk about it, you know? It's one of them things. So it led me to this, okay? The first indication of pride and its effect on humanity was Cain, not the snake, okay? Snake was just pure manipulation, but it could have been orchestrated in order to facilitate awakening. The mark of Cain could have been Satan being thrown from heaven, which in a sense, Cain was cut off from the light and from God. So does that mean that it's archetypical that we are thrown out of heaven in the light if we commit such an act as of murder, of spilling the blood of the righteous? Okay? That's a deep thing to think about. That it happened one time, and that it happened to humanity, so that if we break a commandment that's that terrible, that you're thrown from heaven. You are thrown from the light in this incarnation and afterwards. In the afterlife and here, okay? Saw it as though Satan was spiritual in the details of Cain's murder within what we see. So we see like a serial killer here, somebody that murders somebody, that they're like marked. Like you can see the mark on them where they're just like, they're so far out there, they're disconnected from the light, they're disconnected from God. You know, they can't, maybe they can read the word, but they can't understand it. Maybe they can't eat from it too. So it's like they're spiritually dead, okay? Let me reiterate that Cain wasn't Satan. He was the vessel of pride because he let his sin consume him, okay? And here's the deal. If you look at Revelations 12, 7 through 12, it describes a pivotal war in heaven where Michael and his angels defeat the dragon, Satan the devil, casting him and his angels out of heaven to the earth, okay? This victory brings salvation and Christ's authority as the accuser is cast down, though it brings woe to the earth due to the devil's great wrath, okay? So the victory brings salvation and Christ's authority, and Christ watched it happen. Jesus says he watched him fall from heaven like a flash of lightning, okay? I'm going to open the scripture here. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, which was what happened to Abel's blood. His blood cries out from the earth. And his angel, well, that wasn't in this, but I'm just referencing Genesis. And his angels were cast out with him, okay? And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation, and strength in the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accuseth them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Okay? So, that's complex. How do we figure that one out? Okay, so I think I've kind of gotten to a point where I understand that Abel's blood being spilled was akin to Satan being thrown into the earth. So it's kind of like, well, the earth was cursed beneath Cain. You see my correlation here where I'm like, well, what's up with that? So I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to figure out the details to Genesis based upon what I see in Revelation. Which, for some reason, the first book of the Old Testament and the last book of the New Testament seem to be interconnected. So, does this mean that it is repetitive across time? I believe that it was a one-time event that occurred that is repetitive across humanity. That we see people that, if you go and you murder somebody, God's going to throw you so far out the light, and you're cursed, bro. You're marked. So if you kill somebody, I mean, war is war. So it's like if you go to war, you know, maybe that's a little different. You go to war and you're forced to go to war. Like, for example, World War II, you know, you're in combat and you kill somebody. Well, you're in war. Like, that's a little different, okay? So was the blood of Abel on the ground what caused Satan to be thrown out? Because he used Cain as a vessel, and God warned him, do not let your sin consume you. It was inside and outside of Cain at the same time. Okay? So, what happened to Cain, was he spiritually attacked or demonically possessed by the devil because of his anger and frustration of not offering an appropriate sacrifice, which caused him to give in to his pride, which was the devil that possessed him, and he struck his brother? Okay? Here's the deal. Is this why Satan hates all of us? Because he's pissed. Okay? He wants to steal, kill, and destroy God's creation. His time is short. Why? Inside of everybody, in a way, well, he gets thrown into the lake of fire. And is that what happens when you convert and you get baptized? Is he's thrown into the lake of fire where he cannot possess your vessel? You are then a vessel of God because you have accepted this baptism. Okay? I thought about that. Where I was like, his time is short in multiple different ways. Like, it was short as in God has set time limits upon his, like, it's a cycle. Like, there's a cycle about it where I'm like, whoa, what's up with that? Hold on. Like, there's a cycle about it, but it happens within us that the devil is thrown in the lake of fire once you submit to the Lord in all your ways. And maybe that's the angels fighting inside of you, throwing him out of you. Like, he's out of you. He's outside of you. You're aware. You can see. Okay? I thought about that. That you convert in order to be saved from that very same judgment, but you are freaking annoyed by the devil all the time because he gets in your way after it. So he's no longer allowed to possess your spirit. And I may be off about this, about bothering you all the time. But it seems like the spiritual war is outside of us and within us at the same time, which is very strange to think about, where I'm like, well, what's up? Okay? The devil will tempt you to eat the apple again. So you've converted, you're walking with God, you are of purity. The devil is on the outside as the snake around you that operates on an invisible plane, on a spiritual invisible plane sometimes, to try and tempt you to eat the apple. What does that mean? Say you're married, okay? And you've been married for 5 years. And this bombshell of a model wants to date you. That's essentially him telling you, eat from this apple. And that's not the tree that you want to eat from. The tree that you want to eat from is God's commands. What would God want you to do? What is his law? What's his rules? Well, adultery, hello. Okay, you sleep with a say she's married and you sleep with her, then you're cursed. And it's like, well, great. Okay. So there's a cycle to it. When you convert to Jesus, okay, the devil will try and tempt you with the apple. And if you eat the apple, you're starting all the way over to the disobedience. So he can touch your vessel. And so try this, okay? Read the Bible for about a week, maybe a month. And you feel like you're in the light, your hedge is good. Go to the bar and have a couple whiskeys and Coke. And you'll kind of feel like my hands are dark, but my vessel's light. Like, there's something about the spirit that I just consumed that it's touching me. I don't like that. But I'm inebriated, but I'm still in the light. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, am I saying that whiskey is like the apple? Well, a lot of things could be the apple. But it was something I experienced, okay? So the devil will tempt you to eat the apple again. So the Garden of Eden, is it repetitive across time, where you're with a woman and she's in the light and you're in the light, and you guys get completely drunk, or you do something that's against God, or you steal something, and now you're awake to your nakedness of what you've done? So maybe Genesis is repetitive across humanity. It happened one time in human history, but it happens within us all the time. Christians have to face that we will be tempted with the apple. So I can't go out and sleep with everybody. Well, it's like, God maybe doesn't want that. Well, maybe that's a bunch of apples thrown at me. And it's like, well, maybe I'm just doing what I'm doing, okay? Maybe that's where Ruth comes along, and you find the girl that Ruth is like the purity of Eve before she fell to the manipulation. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but there's something about that purity that makes sense to me, okay? So the devil will tempt you to disobey. So look at people who watch porn, okay? They convert, they're clean of it, and you see it in people's comments when they talk about don't watch pornography, is I watched porn and I backslid, and I need to reach into the Word. I'm not advocating for people to go read the Bible and then watch porn a week later to see what the side effects are, but it's going to be akin to your hedge is gone and your hands and feet are in the dark, but you're in the light. Maybe you got sucked into the dark and you're like, I don't like that. Like, that's not good. I just fell to temptation. The apple. The apple is archetypical around you in your daily life, but it happened one time in humanity where there was an actual apple given to somebody. So the event was true, but the event is archetypical within our walk. You see where I'm getting here? So Genesis happened, but it also, the story of creation happened one time. Okay? The story of creation happened one time. The story of Adam and Eve is where it happened one time and it was archetypical after that. Okay? And a lot of people would say, well, what's up with Cain? Well, Cain took the disobedience so far that he let the devil possess his spirit and let his sin consume him, that he did something that was unforgivable in the eyes of God. So he cursed him for it. He built a town that was wiped out by the flood, so his toil and work was completely meaningless. Okay? It doesn't stand today. But what else? He put the mark over him in order to protect him from being killed. Why? Well, that's the curse. The curse is, nobody can kill you. You have to live your whole life out and die a natural death, okay? But he bared this curse his whole life as a reoccurring event for people that we see, like Ted Bundy, that killed a bunch of people, and sometimes they're put to death. And it's like, well, then that's kind of a court of law situation. But you see somebody who killed somebody who goes to prison for the rest of their life, and they're marked by God, and they bear this curse for the rest of their days. Okay? They bear the curse for the rest of their days. And anyone with any wisdom knows, don't lay hands on them or kill them. Being put to death by a court is another thing. Okay? That's another thing, I believe. I think that's something that God sees and goes, well, maybe the judge has to pay for that, but probably it's more of like a court thing, okay? Countries do that. I mean, a lot of people, they look at that, you killed 50 people, yes, we're putting you to death. It's like, you're a danger to people inside the prison system too, okay? So, what else? Once the rapture happens, does that mean there's a reset? Okay, well, was the rapture akin to the flood? Did the rapture already happen one time, and that's when the flood happened and Noah and his family rode out this boat? It could be there was more than one boat. But it could be that it all reset and humanity stemmed from Adam and Eve, and here comes Noah, and then Noah restarts the bloodline. But he still comes from that bloodline, okay? Something like that. Maybe I'm off, maybe I'm confusing, okay? I'm just trying to figure it out. So, does the rapture happen when we have a flood in our life and we build our mustard seed and build our boat? So if I build my ship with wisdom, did a rapture just happen inside of me with a lightning strike where the wickedness of me was thrown out there and I'm now building the best parts of me in God, which is a house that is built on a rock and not sand? Okay, so I'm like, well, what's up with that? Okay, so was the rapture the flood? Was the first rapture the flood? Okay, so we see it was an event that happened that caused an archetypical cycle within humanity every day. Okay, it's ingrained in human consciousness now. Okay, until the mark of Cain happens once again. I thought about that. So you have this chance when a flood strikes your life to do the appropriate thing, and you see people that have a flood strike in their life where they bit somebody with a snake and they went and killed the person and now they're marked. So it's like there's crossroads through life now. All of this stuff happened in a linear fashion, but it also repeats archetypically within us. The stories repeat archetypically. Kind of scary. Maybe I'm doing something important. Honestly, kind of weird because we're sitting outside of a McDonald's right now. I just ran some DoorDash, bro. So I'm like, I thought about this earlier and I was like, I got to figure this out because I just did Genesis. And I found that figuring out Genesis and figuring out Revelations was really important. But also figuring out what Jesus said. Why? Because Jesus was there the whole time, bro. He saw all of it. Jesus saw everything, including the creation of the earth. So God's Son was a part of God the whole time. I saw it, okay? The snake may have been where the conflict between God and Satan started in heaven. So he worked to manipulate humanity, and that's when God saw that Satan, the devil, was giving into his pride, and that's when the spiritual war started. And then the spiritual war ended when God threw him out of heaven when Cain struck Abel. Those two events in Genesis facilitated the spiritual war and the casting into the earth of Satan. So, the mark of Cain was throwing out of heaven to earth. From then on, it was chaotic to the point of a flood and reset being occurred. So Satan was working through everybody, and they were all giving into their sin, and the wickedness of the land was too much, and he reset it all. Okay? He reset it. You're going to work through all these people, I'll just flood the whole thing, and boom. We have the righteous that survived, that he built a boat, and he was obedient the whole time, down to the point of the dimensions of the boat and the roof, and the animals. He was that obedient. Noah was that obedient, okay? So, the spiritual war that happened in heaven, he was cast into the earth, okay? And now, there was a separation of dark and light, in a way. But you were also seeing in Genesis where Adam and Eve were told to go wander. So it could mean they were told to go wander out in the dark. It could mean that they were told to go wander just in the light because that's all there was, that they consumed the first darkness that was on the spiritual realm. That the darkness was created when Adam and Eve ingested the apple, okay? And then Satan was thrown out of heaven into that darkness, and he started working through the human vessel at an abundance, which was why God chose Noah to do what he did and then flooded the earth and wiped out all this wickedness, which also the Nephilim situation is in there too, where you're like, okay, and then you look at the book of Enoch, that there was fallen angels that were mating with people. You see that, and there's a connection there where you're like, you can't ignore the book of Enoch. But if you read Matthew and you read the book of Enoch, you see the book of Enoch, it doesn't give you a hedge like that. It's almost like Enoch was half dark and half light. Because of his generational curse, he stood there and he faced God and obeyed him at all times, while Cain was way out there and wandering. And so he took things in from God and figured things out from the beginnings of everything, with the fallen angels, the flood, all this to figure it out. So, if you read the book of Enoch, it's actually kind of a dark book. You read it and you're like, why does this seem like it doesn't have much light in it? But it's like, you're reading it and you're like, I'm like this. Like, I'm half dark, half light. Like, why? Why am I half dark and half light? Like, what's up with that? I don't feel like I'm way wicked out there. And it seems like most people, when they look at the Bible, are like, oh, read the book of Enoch. And it's like, well, because you're afraid to come to the full light in Matthew and get blasted back and convert. So, well, I don't mean blasted back, but I mean, well, you get blasted back by a hedge, and that blast back is awakenings of what you've done and what you need to repent for, okay? So, from that point on, what did we see? We saw Exodus, okay? Which was pretty monumental, dude. It talked a lot about Moses. It talked a lot about what happened, okay, with the Red Sea. What did we see that was monumental in the Old Testament after that? Well, if you look in Exodus, you look in Ezekiel, you look in different books of the Bible, there's pretty much people started telling you this is how you're supposed to live your life. So, we're aware that this all happened. We know that this is prevalent. We know that there was a flood that happened, and all this stuff happened to us. So, we need to walk by God and make sure we're pleasing the Most High because we fear Him, and that is the beginning of wisdom. So, whoa. Okay. And then what do we see? Job was tested. Job's testimony. A lot of people may say it was a wager between God and Satan that he will be obedient no matter what. And he was. But he also questioned God, which was maybe akin to him shaking his fist at him and then being corrected and him being awakened to maybe not his foolishness, but maybe his ignorance of what he only knows as a human and that he is not all-knowing and God is all-powerful and you must submit. So it was a reminder. But God knew he would be obedient and he blessed him tenfold after it. You went through this suffering and you came out the other side. Your wife told you to curse the Most High and you didn't. That's wild. That's wild. You went through, and your friends were, you're basically picking your skin with broken pieces of clay pots and rocks and stuff. Like, that suffering is, compare it to your life. Not like a sickness, but compare it to like my life. My whole life gets destroyed, okay? And it's like, what does that mean? That means the isolation that I'm picking at my wounds. And that's kind of akin to, why did this happen to me? Like, what's up with this wound? And I'm picking the scab with a piece of a clay pot. Like, why did this happen to me? Like, what's going on? Like, Like, it's a self-reflection almost. The picking of the scabs and the wounds with the clay pots was akin to an archetypical reflection within everybody when a severe, satanic, wicked attack hits your life, that God is testing you, and it's bad, okay? And it's more of, there's this fight, a spiritual battle just happened, and God allowed your faith to be tested by the devil, and he did everything he possibly could to destroy you. But he can't kill you. But he's taking everything away from you to see if you'll turn and shake your fist at the Most High. It's really weird. Strange. See, it's kind of strange that I just think about this stuff and everybody else is watching the Super Bowl, bro. I don't know what's up with that. Seahawks won, bro. That was pretty cool. But on a serious note, well, maybe that's something we should think about. Why are we sitting here watching sports games all the time but we're not figuring this type of stuff out that you can understand? You can understand the world around you. God don't play. So you win, bro. You win if you reflect like that. So I'm trying to understand how everything is hyperlinked and connected within the Bible, Old Testament to Old Testament, New Testament to New Testament, New Testament to Old Testament. Because it's almost like it's its own brain. Like it's wired like it's a human brain or something. You see it. Jordan Peterson had a schematic that he revealed during one of his lectures, where it's like colored lines that like all match each other of where the Bible hyperlinks. And I thought about that's like a linear way of seeing it. But if you took the Old Testament and the New Testament as like the left and right side of the brain, which isn't probably the right way to see it, but I was trying to see it how it was interconnected as a shape versus a linear. Like, how is that connected like a shape? It's like, well, what's up with that? Because Genesis and Job have certain interconnections too. In strange ways, you read that and you read that and you read that and you read that, and there's something there in between somewhere else in the Bible that connects to both of those things that make those two things click. So it's like a human brain where you learn something. These two things happened. I found this in the New Testament. Something clicked in my mind. So I gained something. And that's seeking, that's the act of seeking and knocking and God providing for you. Weird. So I came to this today and was like, okay. Well, and then I came, this is to my previous video, consuming somebody else. What I was talking about with greed, basically. Someone else's life can consume you. If you kill them, look at Cain. They consume you, but they are cursed for it. It's a constant reminder of what he did. 10 Commandments, thou shalt not murder, mark of Cain. You're disconnected from God. If you consume someone's life, you are cursed for it. Badly. Ask somebody who killed somebody in prison. Maybe they tell you that's the case. They felt like it consumed them. Like, I killed you and tried to consume you, but the person consumed me. Maybe it's the other way around. They consumed me because my whole life is affected by what I did to you. You. They consumed me. It's very strange. And that's like Cain is blinded. He's disconnected from the light, but it is in his face all the time. You did this. It's on him. He killed his brother. It's on him. It's there. Like, it's not like it's over there and I'm disconnected from God. Well, I'm disconnected from God, but the truth is here. I'm blind, but I know what I did. I did this. I'm marked. I look different. So there's a scale to that. Thou shalt not steal. You are cut off from the light for that. Well, you can repent for stealing and rectify it, but if you rectify it, you're closer to the light, or maybe God lets you back in. And if he lets you back in after repenting and converting, you still did it. So it's not like the memory of you stealing this and doing this and getting cursed and having this problem, that doesn't go away. It's not like it just magically disappears. Oh, yay, I got to start over. You get to start over. You're redeemed from the law. But you did it, so you have to face that. It's always there. It's not just back of my mind, oh, I stole this, you know. Especially if you didn't rectify it. It's like, well, yeah, it's definitely there, okay? So what's the deal? So repentance and rectification can help you, but you will be different moving forward than if you had not stolen anything. Disobedience. So they can rectify the disobedience of eating the apple, okay? How? How can they rectify that? Well, obedience. Being obedient from then on, but they can't just negate the fact and say we never ate the apple. You still ate the apple, it happened, it's still there, okay? The truth of your actions that is against, if you disobey God, it's here, okay? It's on your mind and your lens, your spirit. Here's the thing. Rectification can help you, but you will be different. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, you may build a closer relationship, okay, with God and understand Him if you rectify that and take responsibility. If you actively seek to take responsibility, you will build your relationship with God even a little bit more because you took the initiative to do so. Okay? Maybe that's why people don't do that because they're afraid of God. They're afraid of him after that. It's like, well, yes, you should be wise and fear God. But maybe trying to build a relationship with him to understand him so that he can teach you is a better way of going, okay? And well, think about it. If you do something that you cannot rectify, it is your moral responsibility to carry forward with a more righteous state of mind and mode of being than what you had, to at least please God a little bit, even if you are disconnected from him. So even if you're disconnected from God and the light, I'm going to try and be a good person to everybody around me. And understand those laws that I might be spiritually blind and I might have the mark on me because I killed somebody. But at least I know that I'm walking a straight path that I may not be able to see. I'm not in the light and I'm wandering. But what I'm doing is acceptable based upon God's word. That my life can be a little bit better than what it would be if I kept disobeying him. There's something to that. So I'm on some intellectual, spiritual stuff. I don't know. So I got to get running. I got money to make. So until next time, Lone Wolf. Love y'all guys.